Do you think that horror stories only happen in movies? In reality, even in the most peaceful places, darkness always lurks with mysteries and dangers you never expect. In today's video, I will share with you 4 true chilling stories from different regions, experiences that those involved will never forget, and that might make you jump in fear. Get ready, turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and join me as we step into the world of real fears. Story 1. The mysterious shadow on the country land. I was 19, living with my mother and sister on a farm in a remote countryside where there were no houses in sight, only endless fields and deep forests. Life was peaceful, but everything changed a week ago. One evening, while I was fixing the porch light, my sister came home late, looking exhausted and tense. As I entered the house, I overheard her and my mother whispering about a light blue old-fashioned car that had been following her for a week on her way home. The car would typically follow her for a while before turning off, but this time it had been tailing her almost the entire journey. She said she had to take many detours to avoid it, which was why she was late. My mother advised her to report it to the police, and we all agreed. However, she'd forgotten to write down the license plate and could only describe the car to the authorities. A few days passed and the car didn't appear anymore. But one morning I found a strange shoebox placed at our doorstep. Inside was a VHS tape. Without hesitation, I put it into the old VCR. On the screen appeared footage from a surveillance camera showing our house's front yard. The video started from the moment my sister left the house, lasting nearly 8 hours with a segment cut out in between. In it, the shadowy figure of someone was seen standing silently watching our every move, making the air around us cold and terrifying. My sister said this was the day before she reported the car following her. We were terrified and didn't dare to leave the house anymore. I went out to where the camera had been placed to check, but I found no device, and the traces were washed away by the rain. The police said they couldn't do anything because there was no clear evidence of a direct threat, and they couldn't be sure if the footage had been filmed on our property. It was clear that someone was intentionally playing a game of intimidation, and our fear grew larger. A few days later, another tape appeared on our doorstep, identical to the first one. A silent, haunting message that made our family never feel at peace again. From then on, every night, I heard strange footsteps around the house, and shadowy figures appeared and disappeared on the porch. We lost a sense of safety in our own home, turning our haven into an unescapable nightmare. Story 2. The mysterious landlord and the stalking photos. When I started college, moving to a city a few hours away from home, I had to quickly find a place to stay due to a delay with my enrollment paperwork. Unfamiliar with the area, I searched for a room to rent on Craigslist. A man named Peter was renting a room in a large house in a quiet, clean neighborhood. Peter was polite, worked from home, and there was another roommate who was often away. During the first week, I lived alone in the spacious house, feeling both unfamiliar and cold. The room had exposed wires that made me uncomfortable, and the wardrobe door was broken, just propped to one side. Peter told me that the previous owner had used the room as an office. When Peter returned, he was initially friendly, but I quickly sensed something odd about him. His offhand remarks were sexually suggestive, and his demeanor made me uneasy. Peter often secretly took photos of me with his phone and posted them on Facebook, even when I didn't notice, such as when I was sitting in the living room or working on the computer. Gradually, the photos became more private. One of me in a towel in the hallway, another of me sunbathing in the backyard. I felt like I was being watched, but didn't know what to do. My roommate's room was next door, and we shared a thermostat that was in my room. He was rarely home, but one day when Peter was away on business, my roommate discovered something odd in my wardrobe. A small black object, like a tiny camera, attached behind a piece of wire. We covered it with tape and planned to ask Peter about it when he returned. But before we could, one night I woke up and saw my door slightly open with a figure moving inside the wardrobe. I thought it was my roommate, but the light was too dim and the person didn't look like him. After the figure left, I checked the camera and saw that the tape had disappeared. I quietly watched Peter and found that he returned home late at night and went straight to my room. When I confronted him, he seemed surprised, but on his computer, a surveillance video of my bedroom was open. I could clearly see my bed on the screen. Peter tried to explain, apologizing, but I couldn't accept it. I quickly packed my things and moved out, reported it to the police and filed a lawsuit. Although the case is still open, I continue to live in the haunting fear of being watched, losing my privacy in what should have been my safe home. Story 3. The haunting encounter in the deep forest. I am South African, living in a small town near a vast forest I hadn't visited in months due to the pandemic. Recently, a friend called me and invited me to play paintball with a group of friends. There were 6 of us, well prepared with the right gear and fake weapons suited for the forest terrain. Everything started normally playing a few rounds, splitting into green and red teams, battling to capture the flag in the cold winter air. As night fell, it was just Joey and me resting near a tree at the edge of the forest. Both of us were tired and cold. I was rolling a cigarette when Joey walked off a bit further to relieve himself. I turned on my flashlight, shining it in front of me, as it was pitch black and hard to see the path. Suddenly, I heard footsteps approaching. I thought it was Joey returning, but I didn't see the familiar flashlight beam. The footsteps stopped just a few meters away. I shined the flashlight around, but all I saw were trees and darkness. I started to feel uneasy. Then from the opposite direction, another set of footsteps echoed along with the familiar beam of Joey's flashlight. I quickly informed Joey about the mysterious footsteps, but he thought I was just being paranoid and joking around. But I wasn't joking. I looked back to the spot where the footsteps had been and was horrified to see a tall, thin man wearing a tattered bomber jacket, filthy, and looking as though he hadn't bathed in days. He was hiding behind a tree, staring at me. In his hand, he was hiding something. My heart seemed to stop. Joey immediately stood up, holding his paintball gun, ready to confront him. The man stepped forward, his deep voice asking, "What are you doing here in the middle of the night?" Not going to answer. Before we could respond, he laughed and pulled out what he had been hiding behind his back, a large, sharp machete. A chill ran down my spine. I tried to scare him off, with a stern voice firing the last few paintballs from my gun, warning him to leave immediately or I'd shoot. Joey did the same, even though his gun was out of ammo. He didn't blink, just smirked and charged at us. I screamed at Joey to run, shooting at him as we ran, firing continuously. The paintballs hit his head and shoulder, causing him to stumble, grimacing in pain. We sprinted away, the sound of the stranger's footsteps still close behind. It wasn't until we heard the gunshots from our paintball group coming towards us that he finally turned and ran deeper into the forest. Joey slipped and fell in pain, but thankfully our friends helped him up. We hurried out of the forest drenched in sweat, hearts racing. That story haunted me for a long time, and I know that if our friends hadn't arrived in time, we might not have escaped that cold, terrifying night. Story 4. The Bloody Mystery and the Reputation Shrouded in Darkness. I grew up in the suburbs of Raleigh, North Carolina, where crime was virtually non-existent. In 2008, I was a senior in high school, and I had a close-knit group of friends I had been with since middle school. Among them was a friend named Matt, who had just been released from the hospital after a severe self-inflicted injury. I only managed to say, "Welcome back, we missed you." And little did I know that would be the last time I spoke to Matt. Matt had struggled with mental health issues, but he kept everything hidden from everyone. No one knew the depth of his pain until the incident happened. On the night of November 30th, a few friends from the group invited me to go paintballing, but I declined because I was visiting my grandparents. When I returned to school after the holiday break, Matt was still absent. Rumours started spreading that he had run away and gone back to Washington, D.C. to find his biological mother. But what worried me more was that one day 2 of my friends, Algra and Odell, were arrested, and just a few days later, the police announced that a body had been found. It was Matt. 2 years later, Algra and Odell, along with 2 others, were put on trial for serious charges, attempted murder and second-degree murder. Algra and Odell were sentenced to 20 years in prison, while the other 2 received life sentences. Matt's death not only shocked the community, but also haunted me for a long time. I always wonder if I'd gone paintballing with them that night, could things have turned out differently? Could I have prevented the tragedy? Or would I have been the next victim? Even now, years later, that memory still haunts me whenever I think back. A boy once full of hope, a tragic end, and a cautionary tale of the cruelty that can happen right next to us. Thank you for following these 4 haunting stories. If you feel lucky to have never experienced anything like this, remember to appreciate the peace around you. And if you've ever had a terrifying experience you want to share, don't hesitate to leave a comment below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to not miss the next thrilling horror stories. See you in the next videos, where the darkness will once again tell you stories that have never been revealed. Le.